Disclaimer. This is educational purpose video only. I didn't harm anyone. I used my own device during explain of this method, so please don't use this method any kind of illegal or malicious activities. Because hacking is crime. If you do this, then it can land you in jail. I'm not support any kind of illegal or malicious hacking.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about MAC addresses, what they are, why they are important to us, and how can we change them. This is all in order to increase our level of anonymity, so to put it. You might, amongst other things, you might notice that this is a bit of a different interface, and this is an updated version of this section, as there were a lot of people who have requested it, so I figured I would update this part with the MAC changer and simplify it a little bit, also include some additional explanations. Before we actually begin, let me just go ahead and tell you my setup. I have a virtual machine running just as before. It is set up. This is a, yep, there you go, you can see this is a virtual machine. My host operating system is completely irrelevant in this case. It is Fedora 22, but completely irrelevant. Just know that this is a virtual machine of Kali Linux operating within a VirtualBox, and it does not matter if you're using a host, if your host is Windows or Mac, completely irrelevant. Oops. So just go ahead and open up a terminal. That's the very first thing that we will need to do, and let's go ahead and take a look at our MAC address here. So ifconfig, press enter, and you will see that it says hardware or hardware address or burnt-in address. There are multiple names by which it is referred, so no big deal there. You can see that this is it. The first portion of it, the first three sets, they represent the manufacturer. So the MAC addresses are your hardware addresses. So this is not the hardware address of my machine. This is the hardware address of my network card, of my integrated network card. It can be either your Ethernet card or your wireless card or your wireless adapter, whatever. These things have MAC addresses, and by them you can be identified on the network. As I said, the first three sets identify the manufacturer of the particular hardware in question. So by just looking at the first three sets, you can search it on the net and see who the manufacturer is. Just type it into Google, manufacturer with MAC address, and you will get a list or something like that. Doesn't really matter. You will get like 100,000 results, and you will be able to figure out who the manufacturer of that particular card is. Now the last three sets, they are left to the will of the manufacturer. They can do with them pretty much whatever they want, and you cannot really utilize them yourselves for any further identification. In that sense, so you won't be able to see which device in particular is being used. However, this MAC address is visible on my local area, on my local network, and somebody can use it to restrict access, to completely ban me from the network, or to identify me. Anyway, to identify me by name, that would be very difficult, but they will be able to, somebody who would be doing the investigating, or the admin, would be able to see this hardware address, and then if somebody takes a look at your laptop, they will be able to see the same address, which is a problem, because then there is a direct link. Now, they can be changed, they can be altered to your heart's content, which is very good news indeed. But please keep in mind, just understand that this address does not leave your local network. It does not go further. If I was somewhere on the net, out there on the internet, I would not be able to see this MAC address, nor would you be able to see mine. This is only for the local network. In fact, it does not leave the first jump in your house. This network does not leave the default gateway at this address does not leave your default gateway, which is your ISP router. So your connection goes to your ISP router. Your ISP router has this MAC address, but it does not go any further than that. It stays there. So there is no way for me to actually see it directly unless I did some shenanigans and went into the router itself. Grabbed it from the router itself. Anyway, keep in mind that changing a MAC address in a virtual machine is rather pointless, I would say, but it is very useful if you have a USB installation or a USB bootable USB, or if you have installed this on your physical machine, and it is very useful in the real world to know how to do this. But since we have a virtual machine for learning purposes, we are going to use it as our test subject. And in the real world, after you have mastered this, of course, you won't be using a virtual machine, you'll be using a real machine. Not to say that virtual machines are useless by any... I'm not saying that the virtual machine is useless, I'm just saying that we are using this one for learning purposes, and then at some later point of time, when all of this is mastered, you will be able to switch to a bootable USB if you haven't already, or to a physical machine. But the way to change an address is you can do this manually, but you can also use a MAC changer. So with a MAC changer, you can change it's a tool to change the MAC address. So let's go ahead and take a look at this tool. Type in MAC changer space -help -h for help. So the first option just prints this help menu. The second one's gonna give you the version, and this is gonna give you the MAC addresses. In fact, let's go ahead and use this option. So do the S. Okay, fine. Show. Have I mistyped something? ETH0. Okay, so I didn't pass the interface along. Sorry. So you type in ifconfig, and you take a look at the interface, or you know the interface in advance. You can of course see the address here as well, but if you just want the MAC changer to show it, you would just use MAC changer and type in the name of the interface here, and you don't need this whole thing, you just need a -s. And there you go, it says that the current MAC is this one, and that the permanent MAC is this one, the MAC address. So you might wonder, well, why would I want to look at it here if I can just type in ifconfig and look at it and take a look at it here? Well, you want to be, when you change it, you want to be able to see what is your current MAC address and what is your permanent MAC address. So when the MAC address is changed here in the output of the ifconfig, you will only see the changed one. You won't be able to see the original one. So if you want to see the original one, you can have a look at it here. That's the permanent MAC. So no worries there. Let's go ahead and clear this. MAC changer -h. There we go. And this is E, ending. Don't change the vendor bytes. Okay, fine, whatever. We don't want. You're rarely going to use that. I mean, we're gonna go ahead and skip that. Really, there's no point. Another set random vendor MAC of the same kind. Okay, so this is actually not a bad idea. Sometimes, in some cases. So it says set random vendor MAC of the same kind. So for example, if on the network only a certain type of devices are allowed from a certain vendor, you can, and if you can actually go ahead and change the MAC of your card and have it stay within the parameters of the same vendor, even though it will be a completely different MAC address. This is, for example, if if you're in an office building or something like that, and they only allow certain hardware to go and function there from a certain vendor, you can go to that particular machine. It is possible to go, if you have permission, of course, to that particular machine and actually change the MAC address and have it stay within the confines of the same vendor. So it will be completely different MAC, and it will help in terms of anonymity, and you will still have connectivity on the network. But these are rather rare cases, and again, you won't actually need to use this one. This is -A, set random vendor MAC of any kind. Pretty much that is pretty much self-explanatory. And this is an option which you will use as well. And this is -B, quite important actually. It will reset the original permanent hardware MAC. So it will bring about your original MAC address. If you've changed it, or if you've changed it several times, it will restore the original one on demand. -R is just to set fully random MAC address. This is something that you're going to use, so -B and -R are good options. So this is a fully random MAC, and if you're wondering what the -A is, this will give you a random MAC address, but it will this MAC address will be in the pool that has been assigned to vendors, so it will identify you as some. Your network card will be identified as belonging to at least some vendor, as opposed to this is just a random set, completely random set. It doesn't necessarily need to belong to any vendor or anything like that. What do I mean by that? Well, -A, for example, if you did this, like Realtek, a company that produces network hardware, they have a fixed amount of MAC addresses that have been given to them that they can use to identify their devices. And if you say -A, for example, you might get the first 3 sets from the Realtek, and then the last 3 sets will be completely random again, so you will still be identified. Your card will be identified as being from Realtek, as opposed to belonging to some other company. And down below, this will just all 6 sets will be completely random. So -A will ensure that the first 3 sets belong to a vendor, and then the last 3 sets are completely random. With -R, all of the sets are random. -L, okay, so this will print known vendors. You can type in MAC changer -L, and there you go. So these are all the known vendors. There's quite a bit of them, and these are vendor bits. So the first 3 sets. If you generate a random, if you use the -I, you will fall within one of these. You will be identified as having a network card that belongs to some of these vendors, which is not a bad idea at all. You can actually use these bits to fake the MAC address of your hardware as belonging to some of these vendors. So if you wanted to pretend to be a Belkin, you could use these bits to actually pretend to be Belkin. If you want to be Netgear, you could use these, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you get the idea here. There, MAC changer -H. And okay, so pretend to be a burnt-in address. You can use that as well. But down below you have -M, and -M actually sets the MAC address, which is a very, very, very nice option. It can be extremely powerful. It can have a tremendous effect. Why? Well, here's something that I will share from my well, it is my experience because I have seen it happen, and this keeps happening on end, and there are tools to combat it, but yeah, it's just the price and the amount of effort that you have to put into fighting it, it's difficult. Here's what I mean. Let's say you are on a school network. So in some facility, in some building, in a school, and during lectures, during some of my lectures, I've seen people, I've seen this done, let's put it like that. Basically, we had these wireless projectors, and people would, in the beginning, people would just jam the wireless. And they notice, and when they jammed the wireless, the problem was that the professor's computer could no longer connect to the wireless projector, so the lecture was hindered. It was very difficult to perform because the connection would break every minute or so, and yeah, the professor didn't figure it out. He just figured, oh, it must be some sort of technical problem or something like that. Then he went to the administrators, and administrators have taken a look at it, and they realized that they were being jammed. So what they did was implement MAC filtering, and this caused further problems. Why? Because anyone caught jamming, that MAC address would be permanently banned. However, somebody came up with an idea. I mean, it's a fairly simple idea, it's a very old idea. They didn't come up with it, they just used it. To actually scan the network, figure out the hardware address, the MAC address of the professor's computer, just take a look at it, and then set that address as their own address. So they've taken a look at his MAC address, they've taken it, and then they've used the M option with the MAC changer to set the interface MAC address of their own computers to be exactly the same as the professor's. And then they began doing shenanigans, pretending to be the professor's PC. What the administrators would do then is permanently ban that MAC address, which would create a very significant problem, because not only could he no longer connect to the projector, not only could the professor no longer connect to the projector, but the professor could no longer connect to pretty much any wireless network or any network at all within the school facilities, because on every router in the school, that particular MAC address was banned. So this created an even bigger problem. So now you see how the -M function, how the -M option can be extremely useful and extremely powerful. Anyway, I'm running a little bit short on time here, so I will cut the tutorial here, and we will elaborate further on this matter in the follow-up tutorial.